Hi guys, this is Sam from the SAP Careers and Jobseekers group. In the last video, we saw what is it that you need or what are the steps required to become a successful SAP consultant, right? So as we cover various topics, and there are hundreds of topics to cover, but I'm going to go one by one. So the journey is long, but I hope it benefits all of you. So let's start today by talking about an important topic, which is a big term, but it sometimes scares a lot of people and a lot of consultants. So this term is called process integration. So what do you need what do you mean by process integration? So let me kind of decipher what process integration is. So I'll take a case study. For example, if you look at a sales order, in the sales order, there are three major factors that needs to look that kind of talks about the process integration. So the first factor is the money itself. So money comes from financial and cost controlling area, right? So the prerequisite for creating a sales order, which is a typical process integration example in this case, is that you need to set up your financial and controlling area. Next, after the financial and controlling area, the next thing you need to do is buy material. And in order to buy the material, you need to create a material. The material doesn't exist on its own. So in SAP or in any ERP, we'll have to create a material, and that's called material master. So once you create the material needs to be bought from a vendor. So the next thing you need to create is a vendor. So we have financials, we have material, and we have vendor, right? So once you have these three things set up, the next thing that you need to create is the sales structure. So finance, material, and sales, all three go into a sales order and are components of a typical sales order. So let me kind of show you on the board out here and see how it really works. So guys, let's go in. So in the center, we'll have the finance module, right? So in the finance module, we have what we call a chart of accounts. And in the chart of accounts, we have GL accounts. Now, there is a setup for each of these GL accounts. The one that goes into sales is called AR, account receivable. So the account receivable goes into the sales process. And hence, we have to set up GL accounts. So there are two GL accounts you're going to set up. The first one is revenue, and the second one is going to be account receivable. Because in order to sell, you need revenue and you need a account receivable. Because once you sell, you will have money sitting in the sales order, but then how are you going to collect the money? You need account receivable. So the next thing we are going to do is create material. So this is part of my supply chain. And I'll create material, right? So in the material, there are a number of views. So the views link to finance. So I need to set this up. It links to sales. I need to set this up. And it links to storage or warehouse management. And it also links to the material ledger. And the material ledger will be controlling area, which is cost controlling. So what have I done? I have set up my financials. I have set up my supply chain material master. The third thing I need to do is set up my vendors. So this is still part of supply chain. So I'll set up my vendors. And this is called the vendor master. So we'll set up my vendor groups. So vendors are of lots of type. So you could have a cash sale vendor, you could have a credit sale vendor, you could have a consignment sale vendor, you could have a subcontracting or a international OEM vendor. So you'll have to set up the vendor, right? So once I've set up my finance, second I've set up my material, third I've set up my vendors in the supply chain. Now I have the three components that are required to create a sales order. So I'll go ahead and next create the sales organization. All right. So sales organization has divisions, distribution channel, and generally what we call as the sales area, which is essentially a place where all the components of the sales organization are stored, right? So now I have my finance, I have my supply chain, I have my vendor set up, material set up, and I have finance set up. So I'm ready to look at the sales organization, right? So here I'm going to create the sales area, and I'll create the doc types. So the first document I'm going to create is the sales order. Okay. So in any kind of application, you will have to integrate these 4 areas, and that's called organization structure or enterprise structure. So once I've integrated these 4 areas or created these 4 areas at the org structure level, at the company level, at the department level, I'm ready to create what we call as the next level, which is called master data. So I've created master data for sales. So the sales master data will be customer. So this is my 4th thing. Now I'm going to create the master data. So from finance, I have my revenue, I have my account receivable. From the supply chain side, I have my material, that's number 3. And from the procurement side, I have my vendors, right? Now I have to create the 5th master data, and this is called the customer. Obviously, you're going to sell the customer, right? So there you go, guys. I have revenue, I have account receivable, I have material, and I have vendors, and now I have customers, right? So let's go ahead and create the sales order. So sales order will have sold to. So that's my number 5, sold to the customer, right? Material, which is bought from the vendor. So what did you buy? So the item is the material, and the money you are going to bill the customer is my revenue account. So I have revenue. Now, if the invoice is not paid, right? So this is document number 1. So this is called order, right? So this is my first document called order. My second document will be called as, I'm talking about basic, is an invoice, right? And my third document is going to be called as payment, right? So I have my order, I have my invoice, and I have my payment. So now look at this. I have created a sales order. So what I've got here is I've got my customer, which is my sold to party. I have my invoice, which is my bill to party. I billed my customer, and then I have the payer, which is the payment. Now what will happen is, now look at the master data. So sold to comes from sales. Material comes from material master, and obviously the material is bought from a vendor, so you have to have material in stock in order to sell. Next, I will generate an invoice. My invoice has these 2 accounts, my revenue, which is my revenue, and if the invoice is not paid, you will have your account receivable, which is the reconciliation account, AR. Next, once you get the money, we will move the money from account receivable to receipt of money, which will balance out the invoiced amount and the amount received, which is called incoming payment. So the payment, this is incoming payment. So I have my account receivable and I have my payment settlement. So there you go, guys. So this is a typical example of what integration is in any application, right? So I have my finance, number one. I have my material master, number two. I have my vendor master, number three. I have created my sales area and my customer, which is number four. So when I have these four components, I will go ahead and create a sales order. I'm going to test the sales order. I'll give a number to the sales order. And once the sales order is created, I will generate an invoice. An invoice will have account receivable. Again, the account receivable is again a general ledger account, and it's a reconciliation account. That means it's the account holder for all balances. And finally, I will get the payment settlement done. And once the payment is settled, it goes into my income statement, right? And there you go, guys. That's the process of integration of a typical everyday sales order. So we have four areas. We have a document type called sales order. We have a document type called invoice, and we have got a document type called payment. Obviously, there will be a goods issue, right? So there'll be a goods issue, and before the goods issue, there's a delivery order. So now somebody's got to pick up and deliver, whether it's a human being or a carrier, it doesn't really matter. So you'll have to create a delivery order. You'll have to do a goods issue. Once the good issue is done, then you'll generate the invoice, and then you'll do the payment. But fundamentally, I wanted to explain the integration components out here. So again, we have finance, right? We have financier. We have what we call it, the material. Then we have the vendor, and then we have the sales organization. The document which integrates all four of them is called a sales order. Then we have an invoice, and then we have a payment. So that explains the concept of integration to you. We do something called integration test. So each one of them will be tested separately. It's called a unit test. And together when we test them, it's called integration test. I hope this explains the concept of process integration clearly. Hope you understand this. Please like and subscribe, and we'll explain more and more concepts deep down inside the business process, and you'll appreciate that this knowledge is really helpful to you as a consultant, not in terms of just documenting, not in terms of just configuring or setting up the system, but also in terms of getting the UAT, with the user acceptance test, because this is all the customer wants to say. This is incoming money. So you're generating the invoice, you're getting the sales order done, invoice is created, and the payment is done. All right. So please like and subscribe this channel, and we will continue this journey of excellence and take up more topics. Please comment and share this video, and let me know if you want me to cover any additional topics. Thank you, guys. This is Sam signing off for SAP Careers and Job Group. Thank you.